Thriller, horror, psychological thriller, Red Dragon can be hard to classify. But one thing's for sure, it is a modern classic. I'm your host, TD, and welcome to Sick World. Red Dragon is one of the best horror thrillers ever written, and if you won't take my word for it, take Stephen King's. He may be a bigger Thomas Harris fan than I am, and I'm pretty sure he's pissed that Thomas Harris has only written a handful of books.
If God gives you something you can do, why in God's name wouldn't you do it?
What a cunning boy you are.
King also reviewed Red Dragon for the Washington Post back in 1981, and it's probably worth a read more than I'm worth a listen, but I hope you stick with me anyways. The link's in the description, and it's not going anywhere. This is a spoiler-free review, so here's a paraphrase from the back cover blurb of a modern copy of Red Dragon. It's about a former FBI agent named Will Graham who comes out of retirement after risking his life and sanity to capture Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Graham is reluctant at first, but this new serial killer known as the Tooth Fairy has already killed 2 families and more are sure to follow. To find the killer, Graham must understand the Tooth Fairy, and to understand him, he must seek out someone like him, Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Now that synopsis is similar to what you'll find on the back of most copies of Red Dragon in bookstores, Amazon, eBay, wherever. But the reality is that Hannibal doesn't play a big part in Red Dragon. He's in it, he drives some plot points, but he really only appears in a handful of chapters. And don't get me wrong, I love Hannibal as a character, and I'm always left wanting more like the rest of us. But this is a story about Will Graham and Francis Dollarhide, not Hannibal. So to remedy this, I'm going to read you the synopsis I found on the dust jacket of a first edition copy of Red Dragon written before Dr. Hannibal Lecter became a horror icon. Will Graham has a fearful gift, a talent for the pursuit of human monsters. He has caught 2 mass murderers in his FBI career, and now he must hunt again. A ritual murderer has struck twice, killing entire families in 2 southern cities. Graham must find him before the moon is full again, or another family will die. Graham's keen empathy permits him, sometimes forces him, to see the crimes from haunting points of view. This ability and his forensic skills make him the prime threat to the murderer. The killer, Francis Dollarhide, is a terrible accident of nature. He is shaped by his early life into a monster. He's trying to work things out though. So far, his efforts have cost 10 lives. He knows Will Graham is coming, and he intends to do something about it. In a chilling race against time, Graham searches desperately after Dollarhide, always conscious that he and the killer are at some fundamental level alike. And in one terrifying respect, he's right. Like him, the murderer is a ruthless hunter, already beginning his search for Will Graham. Okay, that was a lot. Although I appreciate the brevity of the new copies of Red Dragon, the old one is far more honest about the actual content of the book. But hey, I get it, it's all about the Benjamins, and Hannibal sells. Now that you have a good idea of the content, let's move on to the author, Thomas Harris. Harris is an interesting human. He grew up in Mississippi and became a beat writer covering crime in the US and Mexico, in addition to being an editor and reporter for the Associated Press in New York City. Like his #1 fan, Harris lives in Florida now. But unlike King, he's a recluse, so you won't find much on him. Although he does have one recent interview available on YouTube, so I went ahead and left a link in the description. It's lengthy, but it's worth it. What I love most about Harris are his characters. They all seem like real people with strengths and weaknesses that pop off the page, and there's a reason for that. Many are drawn from real life people, including Hannibal. But like I said before, this video isn't about him, so we're going to focus on other characters instead. Let's start with the Tooth Fairy. Harris loosely drew his inspiration for the Tooth Fairy from Dennis Rader, who was on the loose for decades after Red Dragon was published. Some similarities are that Rader, also known as BTK, liked talking to the press, and like the Tooth Fairy, even told them his preferred nicknames. Additionally, his first murder was an entire family, much like the way Harris's monster kills. They both had a proclivity for having sex with their victims post-mortem, and they both carried out twisted private lives. And no, the picture on the right isn't from a movie. It's a photo Dennis Rader took of himself doing what he likes to do. Thomas Harris also drew inspiration from John Douglas, who Harris interviewed prior to writing Red Dragon. You've probably never heard of him, but he wrote the book Mindhunter is based off of, and he's Harris's inspiration for characters Will Graham and Jack Crawford. In addition to Will Graham, John Douglas is also the inspiration for Mindhunter's Holden Ford and Criminal Minds lead characters Jason Gideon and David Rossi. Moving on from inspirations, here are a couple things I think you might like about the book, and a few things I think you may dislike. Harris's ability to develop characters is unmatched. Protagonist, antagonist, orbital characters, you name it, and Harris has it in spades. The man is a master. You'll also most likely enjoy the pacing. He builds threads of suspense with the best of them, long and short, but never forgets to pay us readers off in the end. I also loved his theme of nature versus nurture. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is nature. There is no explanation given for why he is the way he is, and the only reason given in Red Dragon's sequel, Silence of the Lambs, is from Hannibal himself, who says, "Nothing happened to me, I happened." And I love that explanation. It's perfect for his character, and it's part of what makes him terrifying. He was born a monster. Incidentally, this is also the biggest reason why I absolutely loathe Hannibal Rising, but that's for another day. On the flip side, Francis Dollarhide is nurture. I won't give anything away, but Harris goes for about 40 to 50 pages on the origin of Francis Dollarhide. And although he's never let off the hook for his crimes, you can't help but pity him. Now on to some things you might not like so much. Funny enough, you might not enjoy the 50 pages of Tooth Fairy backstory as much as I did. I know I wasn't a huge fan at first, and all I wanted to do was get back to the main story. And it wasn't until later that I really began to appreciate the time Harris took on the villain's origin. Another thing you may not love is that the book is a little outdated. You'll read words like fax, courier, and cassette on your way to learning that DNA is not quite as useful as you thought it might be. Which reminds me of another word, secretor. That was not a new word for me, but in this book it had a whole new application. Overall, Red Dragon is probably my favorite horror thriller, and I'm being a little nitpicky with some of the negatives, because honestly, they're hard to come by. It's an excellent read, and you'll find it hard to put down, and I think you'll even find Will Graham to be one of the most underrated heroes in the genre. If you've never read it before, let me just tell you, I envy you. Enjoy the ride. So what do you think? Is Red Dragon as good as I think it is? Let me know in the comments below.
That may require me to be sociable.
And once you're done being sociable, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more entertaining videos on the frighteningly real and fictional things of this world.